All right, what's going on, you guys? Brian here with a quick recap for any of you that did not see NXT last night. Here is a quick recap of what went down on last night's episode. We had Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai punch their ticket to the finals of the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic as they defeated Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter to advance to the finals. They will meet the winner of next week's semifinal match involving uh, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell as they take on Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. And the team that wins that one will face Kai and Gonzalez at NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, uh, coming up a week from Sunday in the finals of the Women's Tag Team Classic, for Dusty Classic, I should say. Then we had an interview with Toni Storm where she talked about the upcoming triple threat match at TakeOver for the NXT Women's title, in which her and Mercedes Martinez will challenge Io Shirai for that prestigious championship. Then we had Austin Theory defeating Leon Ruff, and afterwards he would be scalped, that being Austin Theory, by one Dexter Lumis, who would grab Theory when Theory was going outside the ring to grab the ring bell and was going to use it on Leon Ruff. But then, before he had a chance to get back in the ring, Lumis appeared, put him in the silencer, and then grabbed a hold of Theory's hair. And when Theory pulled, there goes the chunk of Theory's hair, as Dexter Lumis had gotten a souvenir in the form of Austin Theory's hair, or part of his hair. Then we had a weird vignette for the leader of Xia Li's group, and from what they made it sound like is that she's thousands and thousands of years old. Um, so that was pretty much it for that. That was pretty weird. For those of you that didn't see it, I would recommend checking it out. Then we had Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde defeating Lucha House Party in the quarterfinals of the Men's Dusty Classic. So they have advanced to next week, where they're going to be facing MSK in the semifinals. And the winner of that one will advance to the finals of the Dusty Classic at TakeOver. Then we had an in-ring segment with NXT champion Finn Balor, Pete Dunne, and Edge, who made an appearance at the Capitol Wrestling Center for NXT. And we found out that Balor will be defending the NXT Championship at TakeOver, where he'll be against Pete Dunne. And Edge told both of them last night that he'll be watching the match, and if he hasn't chosen who he's going to go after, because he did win the men's Royal Rumble match this past Sunday, he could possibly go for the NXT Championship, or he might go for the NXT title at WrestleMania. Of course, it was reported earlier this week that they have made a decision, and whenever they announce what title Edge is going to go for, they'll announce it on WWE programming sometime between now and Mania. But apparently, the plan is to have Edge challenge for the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So, but I always think to myself that until that actually happens, it is okay to think of, what if? What if Edge chooses to challenge for the NXT Championship at WrestleMania? You look at last year when Charlotte Flair won the Women's Royal Rumble. Rhea Ripley came out and basically said, you know what, how about you challenge me for the NXT Women's title at WrestleMania last year? So you could have a possibility of that happening. You know, a lot of what if scenarios there. So, yeah, that was pretty much it for that. Then we had a Johnny Gargano interview where he found out that he'll be defending the North American Championship against Kushida at TakeOver. Then, when Gargano went to Regal's office to have the interviewer that told him that news fired, Kushida would open up the door, and those two would get into a brawl. Then we had Jesse Kamea defeating Tony Storm via disqualification when Mercedes Martinez got involved. This would lead to Tony Storm and Mercedes Martinez going at it. Then here comes NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai, and Shirai would wind up taking them both out outside the ring with a dive, and that was pretty much it for that. Then Santos Escobar successfully defended the NXT Cruiserweight Championship last night as he defeated Kurt Stallion. This matchup was pretty dull. And then afterwards, or during the match, Scarlett would make an appearance. She would be watching the match from high above on one of like the upper staging areas. And after the match, Escobar would be confronted by Karrion Kross, who apparently decided to confront Escobar about comments that Escobar has been making about him the last few weeks, and he basically told him that he's going to give him the gift of time and before the inevitable happens, and he told him to run away, and that was pretty much it. Escobar left the ring and backed off. So obviously they're setting something up with that. Then we had Karrion Kross confronting Edge outside of the Capitol Wrestling Center, telling him that it's not going to be Finn Balor and it's not going to be Pete Dunne. Should Edge decide to go for the NXT Championship, it's going to be him that holds that title. And Edge took this as a threat, and said that, you know what, that threats can make could fire people up, and to the point where they could come back, and Karrion Kross wouldn't want that. So, like I said, a lot of different what if scenarios. It could be, what if between now and Mania, Karrion Kross becomes NXT champion, and then Edge decides, you know what, I don't want to face whoever the WWE champion is, and I don't want to face whoever the Universal champion is. I want to go for the NXT championship. We'll have to wait and see. And then in the main event, Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa, the Unlikely Tag Team, they defeated Roderick Strong and Adam Cole in the quarterfinals of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic for the men's. And this one I thought was pretty good. Thatcher and Ciampa advanced to next week, and they're going to be facing next week the Grizzled Young Veterans in the semifinals. So the semifinals are set for the Dusty Classic for the men's. And then next week, the second semifinal match in the Women's Tag Team Classic happens between Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae as they take on Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. So those are the matches for next week. MSK taking on Mendoza and Wild of Legado del Fantasma. And, of course, Thatcher and Ciampa facing the Grizzled Young Veterans in the semifinals, and that will set up the finals for both the men's and women's Dusty Classic happening at TakeOver Vengeance Day. So that pretty much wraps it up. My overall thoughts on last night's episode of NXT was it was okay. I thought that the segment with Edge, Pete Dunne, and Finn Balor, I thought that was the highlight of that show, of the episode. So, yeah, pretty much this about wraps it up. This has been my NXT recap for last night's episode. As always, I am Brian, and I will see you next time.